Welcome back everybody. We're going to jump straight back in now and we're going to start programming the background class. So if you haven't programmed the enemy or the player class, go back to parts 1 and 2 to program those before we get into the background. So the background itself, we are only going to need to kind of work with the display surface that we're going to pass to it. So we're going to initialize it and say that it just takes self and display surface. Now I'm drawing that all in caps there, which is a bit odd, but you'll see why when we get to the main bit. Most events in Python are written all in caps locks, and kind of the display surface is kind of one of the things we use with events, so that's why I've got it all in caps for the time being there. Now this background is going to need an image and it's going to need a starting position. If you remember our background, it kind of moves across the screen, and then we have another thing working behind that, which is actually changing the colour slowly from like blue to black. So we're going to do, so this is literally just going to take those clouds and it's just going to move them, it's going to scroll them across the screen for us and draw them across the screen. So in order to do that, we are going to need a background image. And that is we're going to load that. So we're going to do pygame.image.load, and the one I've got in the folder is called clouds.png. And then we're going to make a rectangle of that image, so a rectangle with that shape. So we're going to do self.rectbg image equals self.backgroundImage.get underscore rect. So that creates a rectangle of the size of this clouds.png, which I can then draw the clouds to in a bit. We need to do a move speed, so self.moveSpeed. So you can change this to whatever you want. I'm going to have a move sort of half a pixel per second, so that's 0.5 there. And we need a starting point here. So we are going to need to work out, so basically the way this is going to work is, if we think about that image, we are going to load one lot of clouds and slowly move them to the left off screen. Now what that means is that as we move those clouds left off the screen, there's going to be a gap. And what we want to do is, as the first set of clouds moves left off screen, there's a second set of clouds which are off screen which are also moving left, and it's like a carousel. As one set of clouds goes off the screen, they get loaded to the right off screen and they go past through the screen, so they're kind of getting loaded round and round and round. So that's why we're going to need four sets of coordinates for this. So we're going to do self.background x1 is going to equal 0, self.background y1 is going to equal 0, and then self.background x2 is going to equal minus self.rectbg image width plus self.moveSpeed. So this bit of code here is basically going to say that that X position, instead of loading on the screen, we're going to basically load that off the screen, ready to be loaded in, and constantly look at the width of that window, adding the move speed, and constantly having it move across the screen. The Y2, so the self.bg Y2 is going to be set to a 0, because we don't want to be moving up or down. That's constantly, we just want to be looking at that x-axis. So the first x is set to 0, so it's going to be in this bottom left hand corner here, 0, 0, and the next one is going to be set over off screen, ready to be moved onto the screen. Okay, we're going to do an update function now. So we're going to do set def update self and we are going to say that the x1 and the x2 are going to be constantly updated and moved by the move speed. So we use self.bgx1 equals itself plus self.move speed. And you've probably guessed that we're going to need to do the x2 with this as well. So x2 is going to be whatever x2 is set to, and we're going to add the move speeds to that. Now we're going to look at these next if statements. I'm going to write them out and then we'll have a look at them in a second. So all this code here is doing is it's looking at that x1 coordinate, and if it's ever equal to or greater than the width of our image, then we reset that x1 to minus the width and plus the move speed, so plus 0.5. So it sets it just off screen. So basically it sets it just off screen to the right again. And we do this exact same thing with the x2. So the x2 is looking at the other image. So the x2 are the coordinates of the second lot of clouds, and if they're ever greater than or equal to the width of the rectangle, then we reset that one's x2 to get them off the screen again to the very right hand side of the screen, so minus whatever the rectangle width is. So the width of the rectangle is going to be 600 pixels. This will set it to minus 600, so that'll set it way off screen, and then it will then move onto screen from there. And also I added the self.move speed. I'm not sure I need that actually. We're going to check that when we actually move through this. It may not need that because that may cause a little bit of an overlap, but we will have a little look. And the very last thing here is we are going to do a draw function for it as well. Why I've called this one render, but it's another draw function. And it takes the display surface, and we just do that display surface dot blit, and we are going to draw two of the images, one at x1 and x1 and y1's coordinates, and one at x2 and y2's coordinates. And they're going to constantly kind of get updated from there. Y1. And we're going to do that exact same thing again, but draw the second set of coordinates. So x2 and y2. And let's just check to make sure there's no errors so far. Fingers crossed, no errors so far. So we're now good to go on actually creating the main loop that's going to loop around and make everything work. Okay, so next video is the fourth and final video in this series. So this is going to pull everything together and get you a working game. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed that, and if you're ready for the next video, go and click on part 4.